Hey everyone, what's up? What's going on? It's Joe, and before we get started with this episode, I have just one question for you. Do you live in or around the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area? Because if so, I think you should really consider coming to see us live this Sunday, June 24th at 4 p.m. at the Philly Improv Theater. It's gonna be a good time. We're gonna be bringing people up on stage, including Ross Wiseman of the Kid Flicks podcast, and who knows, we might even bring you up. Show up. Anything could happen. Tickets are $10 in advance at phillyimprovtheater.com. If you go the day of and purchase your tickets at the door, it's going to be $12, so you want to get those tickets in advance. It's also a BYOB venue, so bring your own beer. So come out, support the podcast. It's this Sunday, guys. I'll get more into it before next week's episode, but I'm also going to be a guest on Ross Wiseman's Kid Flicks live episode at Tattooed Mom in Philadelphia on Saturday the 30th, so next weekend. So come out and support that too. But yeah, I'm excited for the show and to meet all of you there. But until then, let's get right into this review. We're going to be reviewing Ocean's 8 with Vince Yearly. Enjoy. Hi, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Ocean's 8.
Yeah, I was promised at least 8 oceans, so I want my money back.
Hey everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, featuring two guys getting their oil changed and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And that synonym presented by Connor McFadden on Facebook. Thank you, Connor. If you have any further synonym suggestions, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, email, Gmail, our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com, our Facebook group, How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up, the Facebook group. Unlimited ways to get in touch with us to let us know how you think we should refer to Drunk As in our next episode. But let us delay no further. Joe, do you want to introduce the guest sitting betwixt us?
I would love to. Betwixt us, we have Vince Yearly.
Hi, hello, thank you. Thank you, Joe and Mike, for having me on today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, see you later.
All right, see you. We'll see you. Bye. Here we go. See you. Bye-bye. And we're back.
They're roping me off, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, yes, thanks for having me on here, man. It's a pleasure. I can't wait to tell you about all 8 oceans. One
Are
more
there
than
8
the seven
oceans?
No, the 7 seas.
Oh, yes, of course.
Which I'm surprised never once made reference to that in the movie.
Yeah. There's that could have been something.
I mean, but then again, I'm also the person who holds it against Stranger Things for them never saying, "Oh, well, stranger things have happened." So that'll give you a nice taste of how I think of movies and like how I rate them. Like, did they say the title or make a
Didn't
pun
make a
about
joke
it?
about the title.
Yeah.
Minus one finger.
The camera pans out. At
Nobody
the
looked
end.
at the camera and said the title. Minus another finger.
Yeah, you get one finger
guess
for
that's-
making the movie. That's it.
I guess you could say they were Ocean's 8.
I think it would be better if they're just like, where are we gonna find someone on the 7 seas like this? Like 7 seas or an Ocean's 8?
But
That's on the cutting room floor somewhere.
It's somewhere on the cutting floor. There's a producer listening to this right now going like, God damn it, that man knows me. He knows I wanted that in the final cut.
Where were they when we had the test screening?
But no, we've been trying to get Vince on for a while, but it's a little hard because he lives on the West Coast.
Yes.
With our good buddy, or near our good buddy, Nick Ossello. You guys are former roommates out there.
Yes,
on the
former
West Coast.
roommates, yes.
You were roommates on the East Coast as well, or housemates, right?
Actually, no. We went to college together.
Attended
on
the
East
same
Coast.
college,
Yeah, we attended the same college, and I went over his apartment many times. I slept on his couch a lot, so I guess it's kind of like
For a night, you were a housemate there.
in like a tangential way. Yeah.
But no, Vince is an actor. Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell us a little bit about
Doing a lot of stand-up and
yes,
everything.
stand-up,
Yes.
yes.
What are you doing? Okay, I'm going to be your parents.
Okay.
Vince, what are you doing over there on the West Coast?
Well, Mom,
The
if you
sinner-
listen to me.
the Sinner's Coast.
Oh my God! One guy told me, he's like, "Oh, you live in California, huh?" And I'm like, "All right." I'm like, bro, we're playing a game about Vietnam and the war horse, and you're judging me for living in California. but no, yeah, I do stand up, and I'm a voice actor and an actor as well. It's an interesting lifestyle because until you get to the point where like your acting can be, self-sufficient as your sole form of income, you also do a bunch of odd jobs, but it helps your art because you run into weird people all over the place.
Right.
One time I somehow ended up at gold medalist and championship boxer Henry Tillman's house when I was at the gym an hour beforehand. And next thing I know, I'm in Torrance in this guy's man cave. I knew it because it said man cave all over the garage.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. But
How did that happen?
my boxing coach knew the guy, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna try and get you in movies. You that dude." I'm like, "Thanks, okay." That's why I came out here. So thank you for trying to help me as well with that. But no, it's pretty awesome. It's definitely a career of passion, and I'm not chipping away.
Chipping away.
Yeah, you put notches in, chip it. But it's a lot of fun, and I've done a lot of stand-up at like a lot, even like anime conventions and everything as well.
Okay, cool.
So it's a lot of fun doing that there, and it's great because you start finding your niche crowds you like to do, and I like anime people because we're all outsiders in a way, so we get to make fun of normies.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But the best thing is I always like secretly can look like a normie though, so I blend in with them, and I can see what they do, and I'm like, normies. They think I'm one of them. But yeah, like we this whole idea came from when we were drunkenly playing some PUBG together, and Joe was like, "Fizz, we didn't get you on the show," and I was like, "Yeah, man, that's a great idea."
Vince, what about pudding pops?
I'd like to get this pudding pop. Sorry, I'll probably delve into a lot of impressions in this too. That's my voice actor end coming out. Like, yeah, it's a little hard getting these Ocean's 8 here. See,
Vince, why don't you finish that beer?
okay, it's not that easy drinking beer. But what were we talking about? Why was I here? Yeah, why was I here today?
Speaking of beer, we're drinking 360 India Pale Ale from Sly Fox. For those viewers watching on YouTube, you're going to get a nice little treat because these cans, the whole like lid pops off.
I don't want to tilt mine too far forward to show the camera, or else I'll be spilling it all over the desk.
I'm going to crack it near the mic so maybe you guys can hear it. That's a different kind of pop.
Yeah.
There's a crack and a pop. That's a pop.
Yeah, I was explaining it to Vince earlier. I was
Like a tuna
the
can.
entire
Sardines.
which sounds super appetizing. That beer's kind of like a tuna can, man.
Well, if we knock one of these over, it'll all come out. There won't be saving any computers.
Sly Fox, we'll make the whole mess.
And thank you for sponsoring the How Many Fingers podcast. It's now over. Everything is fried.
Permanently.
The entire hard drive is gone.
It's gone. Sly Fox, when you want to ruin your hard drive.
Yeah, I brought this to one of the parties at Joe's place here. Joe had introduced me to this brewery, Sly Fox, and then I saw the 360, and then I got back and realized, oh crap, the whole top pops off.
Right, yeah. I think we did one previously, the something like HELLES. I don't know how that Hales.
Maybe.
Hell,
I don't know, but
Hell's Brewery.
I went to Hell's Gate and back.
If you're going through hell, keep on going.
But yeah, I now I just see like a pack of like they'll have like a variety pack of Sly Fox, and they literally all have like these like can things. So I feel like they're now like letting on to like
I don't know, like
that people know that they think this is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, when I bring like a 6-pack of like these to a party, and people are like, "What are you drinking?" And I'm like, "Nice.
I'm the coolest guy here.
Ice broken."
It's not just a beer; it's a conversation starter.
Whoa, cool, dude.
That's a Sly Fox.
Sly Fox, when you want to be the life of the party.
Yeah, now that I have you here, have you heard about Scientology?
I live 3 blocks from that place in the valley. I'm pretty sure it's a prison camp.
Yeah,
No one ever goes in or out.
We've seen Going Clear. Kids die there. Or at least they're not treated the way kids should be. It's just Child Protective Services should be in
Treated
there.
the way
Yes.
kids shouldn't be treated. We're going down a very political road here right now.
Let me get us started on Ocean's 8.
Yes.
Speaking of kids and the way they should be treated.
Where are all the kids in Ocean's 8?
Yeah.
Huh? I mean, there are some. There's a mom character. Gotta rep those moms.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
All the moms in the theater were like, that's just like me. Okay.
Running illegal merchandise out of my garage. It's me.
Basically laundering
Except
stolen
with
goods.
essential
yeah.
oils.
The IMDb description will have you believe. There's that burp. That
There it is. I was looking for you.
Debbie Ocean gathers an all-female crew to attempt an impossible heist at New York City's yearly Met Gala.
New York City's Vince yearly.
I do come annually. It took me 26
Once a year.
Yeah, once a year. That's it. You got it.
My doctor's concerned.
It's a lot of backup.
I just put my tagline. I'd be like, yearly, like an annual basis. It took me 26 years to come up with that tagline.
NASA sets their clocks on me.
All right, let me run through some quick mic notes for Ocean's 8. Ocean's 8 is, of course, a spin-off from Steven Soderbergh's Oceans series, which includes Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and Ocean's 13. And Ocean's 11 was a remake of the 1960 film of the same name, starring Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop, aka 5 of the Rat Pack. And this one was produced by Steven Soderbergh, but it was written and directed by Gary Ross, and Olivia Milch has got a writing credit in there as well. Gary is a writer for Big, Mr. Baseball, Dave, Lassie, and The Tale of Despero. And he's a writer-director for Pleasantville, Seabiscuit, The Hunger Games, and Free State of Jones. And Olivia Milch previously wrote and directed Dude, which was on Netflix like 2 months ago, and that was the first thing that she's done credited-wise on IMDb, and she's got like 2 upcoming films, Barbie and Queen and Country. So kind of a wide spread there.
Or is it like Barbie, like the doll?
I'm assuming. I don't care
Yeah, I
enough
think
to
they're
click.
making a Barbie movie. That's weird. It's always like these co-writers that they bring in that are like, what have you done? They're like, nothing. And they're like, well, now you're going to co-write Ocean's 8 with me.
Yeah.
You're a woman, and I can put your name on the front page of the script.
You're in the big fishbowl now.
Just a few production notes. Soderbergh had long said that there would not be a 4th Ocean's film. First because they had wanted to go out strong on Ocean's 13, and then later because of Bernie Mac's death, who was obviously one of the characters in that trilogy. And then development on this all-female spinoff began in 2015. And then just this note I thought was kind of interesting. Matt Damon filmed a reprisal of his role in the original series, but his scenes were cut following his controversial comments surrounding the Me Too movement.
Oh.
So he filmed a whole thing, and then they were like, maybe not the best time to have Matt Damon in a movie that's got 8 women in it. Remember, like
What did Matt Damon say again?
he had the comments where, well, he had defended someone who worked with Harvey Weinstein, someone from the Weinstein Company, I believe. Like stuff had started to come out against him, and he like went on public record being like, no, he's a great guy. You know, it couldn't be him. Him and like someone else were doing that. And then the real controversial stuff was like he was basically trying to like parse the different types of like assault, and he was like, you know, like what Harvey Weinstein does is one thing, but what some of these other guys are getting like, you know, knocked for is like it's not the same thing. Which is true, but you don't say that in like an interview, and like it's not for anyone to like parse. Like it's, you know, you don't get off easy just because you weren't as bad as Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah,
so.
that's the whataboutism that gets into a lot of things.
Yeah.
That's like,
It
what
just-
about so-and-so? It's like, no, they're not on trial here. You are. Like, I don't care what they did. No, that doesn't make it okay for you to do it.
So
I'm gonna say 2 names, and you tell me who's worse: Harvey Weinstein and Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but
What
was your answer? What was your answer?
What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say?
Hi, I'm Matt Damon, and I'll stake my career on Harvey Weinstein's.
You're saying you think
Moral
Hitler
compass.
wasn't bad at all? No, I'm just saying that he's not the worst of the two. No. You said Harvey Weinstein is worse than Hitler. You think Hitler is okay?
You think Hitler's fine?
You're okay. But we digress.
I can't really be mad because it means we didn't have to see Matt Damon in this movie. So.
Yeah, no, I won't. Yeah, I won't lie. I feel like
I'm not gonna.
the few cameos that they had in it though, like I kind of enjoyed them and everything. That obviously bringing back a few people from the old one there. I think when they had that little talk at the mausoleum, in that scene.
What's up with that?
That was her father, her and George Clooney's father
It's
or
her
uncle. Is it?
No, that's George Clooney, isn't it?
No, that was her father. George Clooney's her brother.
Well,
The guy that she.
the person that she's visiting.
Oh, no,
the...
that's George Clooney. He means the guy that comes to talk to her.
Okay,
That's her
okay.
uncle.
No. I mean, she's talking to a dead George Clooney, and then somebody behind me was like, "Wait, is that character dead?" And it's like some guy who pretended like he knew what he was talking about. He's like, "Yeah, he dies in the third movie." And I was like, that's not true.
Yeah, that's what
He's alive when that trilogy ends, and now he's just dead because he doesn't want to be in this movie. But no,
I think I may have also mixed that up too because I thought that was her dad. I'm like, because then they have the picture in the bathroom. She's like, "Oh, is this your brother?" He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, he's hot." And I'm like, and I was like, "Yeah, it's funny, George Clooney's probably doing his thing somewhere out there." But yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess I interpreted that thinking that was her dad in there. That's what. And
the grave,
yeah,
the dead person.
Yeah, so that was George Clooney.
The dead person is supposed to be George Clooney. Yes.
Man, I think I might have lost at the beginning.
Yeah, well, and then when she visits him at the end, like I don't know, it's just weird because it's kind of like, oh, like they were so close. He never mentions her once in three movies.
I was kind of half expecting him to show up and be like, I guess we got to get one more person so we have Ocean's 9. Because they're obviously, like, they're going to make a 9 and 10. They very intentionally, like, there's Ocean's 11, so then we go to 8. Leaving space for 9 and 10.
Are you saying this is the Ocean's original trilogy?
The Ocean's prequel?
Ocean's prequels? Yeah.
That's almost, I thought, when I first heard it was Ocean's 8, I thought they were going to, like, have it set in, like, the 80s or something. Which honestly kind of would have been more interesting. Yeah, I would be on track with that. But yeah, I was like, oh man, George Clooney's going to make a fucking cameo because he's obviously not dead. Like... And then
I
was
wouldn't
just
even
like,
have hated a George Clooney cameo. Like, he was obviously the main character of the original 3, and he's got a lot of charisma, and, like, why not have him, like, show up? It would just seem like this weird thing where they kept bringing up, like, oh, like, he's dead, and then people are like, is he dead? Is he definitely dead? And then he doesn't show up at all in this movie. Like, maybe there was an after credits scene, but I'm not going to stay unless it's a Marvel movie after the credits.
Yeah, I didn't save the credits either. I was like, I normally do, just because I feel like I'm like, out of respect for all the people that put their lifeblood into this movie, you might as well at least see their names. But my girlfriend was with me, and she's like, all right, let's go. I'm like, okay, yeah, like it's not Marvel, so yeah, I don't need to heavily bank on there being after credits.
I can read through the IMDb.
Yeah. Sorry, people who put their lifeblood into this movie.
Just picturing like Vince is like the Colton,
Everyone's
like
getting up and leaving. You cowards!
the Colton like Fight Club. His name was Michael Hansen. His name was.
He was the third best boy. It doesn't matter. Tell that to him.
He was the Grip's assistant.
He was an assistant to Mrs. Bullock.
But yeah, that's all I got for Mike notes, so we can jump right in.
I like how you definitely
take a splash in the Ocean's 8.
A for effort.
Thank you.
A for effort. I'll give you on that one. As a man of puns,
It was a little pandering. I know Vince likes the title.
Yeah. Wait a second, you trying to butter me up?
I think what's it called on our like Facebook discussion group? Your girlfriend Rowan said like not enough oceans, and I was promised at least 8. But yeah, no, I'm not over that George Clooney thing, man. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For me, I think it's because, I mean, it also might have been, I was also coming down from a few beers before I got to the theater. So, like, I'm not sure if I missed anything in the beginning. But for me, I was watching, I think once they started getting the movie going, I kind of understood the idea that, okay, I think George is dead. But, like, when I first watched that scene at the mausoleum, I was like, So wait, is that him? Because I kind of forgot his Ocean's character name. So when I saw the name on the gravestone, I was kind of like, I can't remember who that's supposed to be.
I can also see, I mean, like, I think I listened to somebody review this, like a little NPR review before I went into it. So I think, like, I'm not sure if I would have caught that either. If I went into this blind and she was just like, when I think of like Ocean's 11, I'm not like, oh, I can't even remember his name right now. It's Danny, right?
Yeah,
Danny Ocean. I just know him as George Clooney and Brad Pitt are hanging out, having a good time on set. The trilogy,
and Matt Damon's also there.
And Matt Damon's following them around.
Hey guys,
Harvey's really not that bad. George, no, you can't get into Hitler. You have to tell me who's worse.
Right now, end all be all. Well, it's funny because I remember.
I'm sorry, we're going on a camping trip, and you're gonna pick the last guy to come with us, and it's Hitler or Harvey. You gotta make the decision, Clooney. All right, I guess Harvey. I don't. See?
You heard it here first. Harvey's not a bad guy.
George Clooney says.
Yeah, George Clooney
says, Harvey's not that bad. In fact, I'd go camping with him.
Entrapment. It was funny. I did eventually have a note I had in here somewhere. I actually put, she's Brad Pitt. For Cate Blanchett's character and everything, Lou. The thing is, and it was because I kind of started putting the parallels together. I'm like, get it? She's got the wacky outfits. She's always like dressed in that kind of like new wave style. Like she's unpredictable. She's a wild card. And and Deb, Sandra Bullock's character, was the very straight edge. I'm like, okay, she's obviously George Clooney, considering she's George Clooney's sister.
Yeah.
But then it had a bit the same formula, but I kind of liked that. Like for me, it's like I think the best way I summed this entire movie up was that it had enough, kind of off rails improvisation, like, circumstantial plot points to be fun, but not so much that it was unrealistic or like impossible. Like I hate when heist movies start out and they're like, oh, this guy took a poop in the wrong urinal and everything. Like, it's like they're banking on a guard doing something like that, and that's going to set off the entire heist. It's that's so circumstantial and highly improbable. That's like,
there was a bunch of stuff. I mean, I'll get into it when we get into like the specifics of the heist, but there was a bunch of stuff that was like you planned on that happening. Like there's like a lot of stuff that was like subjective and not like concrete that they could just go out and do.
But Mike, she ran it 1,000 times when she was in prison in her brain. It took her 5 years, and she just knew the layout of the Met Gala. And
see, like I feel like they approached her character wrong, where like she's like this lifelong criminal who's been like pulling off heists forever. And it's like, well, then why didn't she show up in the other 3 movies? Like, if you have a sister who's good at doing heists, and you do 3 like major heists with like 11, 12, and 13 people, she was never one of the people considered.
Well, as far as the timeline goes,
I guess she was in
11,
jail
12, and 13 take place during the
maybe?
5 years she was in jail? Because I don't know if they happened one after the other.
I don't know.
I forget the timeline for the original trilogy.
Is this supposed to be a period piece? Because the first Ocean's is in 2001. Ocean's 11, right?
Right. She was only in jail for 5 years. I don't know. Yeah, it gets tricky, and like I couldn't figure out whether the jail thing was just like a plot device or something trying to tie it into. I mean, I think that's also why the George Clooney thing happened, is them kind of looking into the camera over and over again, being like, "Hey, remember Ocean's 11? You like that movie, right? Like, well, this movie's connected, so you gotta like this movie too, kind of." But
it's also just it's weird to like I appreciate that they were trying to make it seem like there was, for these characters, this whole like history that had happened before the movie. But it's also weird when this is taking place in the universe of like Oceans, and it's like, oh, like we never even like heard about her, or she was never mentioned in any of these movies. Like, even though she's been doing crime her entire life, she's close enough with Danny to like show him the plan at one point. And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty good," like or whatever. like he doesn't want to be involved in that. Like, it's a pretty big like heist. Like, why wasn't he like, "Yeah, let's run this together"?
She emailed it to him, and like she
typed it in a draft on an email account that they created together.
She like,
shout out to our boy Michael Cohen.
She's like, "Can you give me notes?" And he's like, "Looks good." Can you send me a proof? And he just like reattaches the file and like forwards it to her. Looks good. This is just what I sent to you. Uh-huh. Oh, I'm dead, by the way. So stop emailing me.
I honestly couldn't remember like how the third movie ended. So I was kind of like, oh, I guess maybe he died at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah, it's a
Like
definite.
I was that guy in the theater who was like, yeah, he died at the end of that movie.
guy who
But I
was
had
too
no idea.
sure of. Yeah. It ended like all of them end, where it's kind of like, boys, looks like we're walking away with 20 trill,
Yeah.
baby.
We didn't get enough money the first 2 times.
It's actually kind of sad 'cause I feel
20
like
trill.
20 trillion.
That's a fucking insane
Yeah.
amount, George. I don't. Well, we had to raise the stakes.
And you spent all of
Ocean's 14, $15 gablillion.
it. That's the other thing that's too about a lot of
We're
heist
gonna rob
movies,
the
yeah.
moon.
George, you could buy planet Earth.
Like, what did you do with all the monies in between movies? Like, what did you spend it on?
Jet skis and cocaine, baby.
Papa's got an extravagant lifestyle. I can't give that up. We need another heist. Which I guess sets up a very sad universe for like these characters. Like they're perpetually having to commit crime, and each one thinking they finally made the big
Yes,
score.
one last score.
But yeah, one last score. But there's like 21 last scores.
My bank account's so depressing. 50 trillion? It was 100 trillion like 4 years ago. We got it, boys. We got to do a job. I run into hard times.
So I did like, especially at the beginning, like the way they kind of established like her character and all that, and like even though I kind of like, I think I kind of went into it knowing like I kind of didn't expect there to be, I expected there to be little head nods to like the other series, but I kind of figured like I was gonna went in no expectations of like this is just gonna be a whole new thing. They're gonna have a few little elbow nods and elbow rubs and all that to the old one, but I figured they wanted to try and make it its own thing, so I kind of tried to see it like in a vacuum type.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's start with Sandra Bullock's character.
Okay. Yeah.
Because she's living in this kind of like there are things I like about this movie, but like there's just so many
It's a really enjoyable movie, but it's so vapid.
there's so many hilarious flaws with like this character. It's kind of like her getting out of prison or whatever when she gives like her like little speech, and she's just kind of even got her eye roll. I'm like, whatever, love the attitude, let's keep going. But then she's talking to a prison guard. She's like, well, they're letting you go, and she's like, yeah, when you have 5 years to practice a speech, am I right? Well, I'll see you on crime side, bye. Like, you know, like, you know, and then she gets out, and then there's never any, like, I was like, oh man, there's gonna be some sort of conflict where she has some sort of probation officer, and like, oh my god, she can't go out to do the job, and she's
How
gonna
is she
be on
planning
like, the
a heist
radio
with like a probation officer? And
It's
you gotta
so
meet once a
confusing.
week. And like,
I'm sorry, spoiler alert.
they
but-
make the whole big deal about like, oh, like you can't be with like anyone who's like, you know, a criminal
Yeah.
or has been convicted of a felony.
That's true. Yeah,
in that
nobody
speech.
checked up on her.
And then like just give us one scene where like, you know, a probation officer comes to meet her, and one of those people there who is a felon is there, and they have to like, you know, talk their way out of
Crazy
it or something.
hijinks.
Yeah.
I think if they did that though, they would have been like, well, we're already doing that scene later during the actual heist where she's like, you know, delaying some guards by like trying to be like, oh, I'm in the wrong place, yada
Yeah.
yada. So like, I guess they figured like we can only have so many talking their way out of some things per movie. So we already spent that during the heist. So we can't spend it on a probation officer.
I just didn't see like a whole lot of stakes, kind of.
See, that's what I think the biggest problem.
They were grilling burgers, but not once. Okay, go on. You're making a serious point.
I mean, I could see where you're going with that. I was already preemptively loving it.
Well, like, not to jump into it like too early, but I think the biggest problem with this movie is that like, who cares whether they get the hype? Like, there's no like we don't even get like, it's so laughable how little they try to like establish all these different characters, much less their like relationship to one another. Like, it's all just like, oh, we want to like have a heist and we all like money. But like, that's not enough to make me be like, oh man, like I really hope they like pull off this heist. Like the thing I try to compare it to like other heist movies. Like I think a pretty good one It's a little dated now, but like Italian Job at the time it came out, the remake, the Mark Wahlberg one,
Yeah.
was a pretty fun heist movie. Like we all loved seeing that in theaters. And I think one of the things that makes that movie work is like it is about the money, and they all, you know, they do have the fun part of like, what are you going to do with your money,
Right. Yeah.
and all that. And it is for the audience like a fantasy film of like, oh, what would I do if I had that much money? But it's also in that movie, it's like a revenge thing where it's like
It was
Edward
Edward
Norton's character
right? Yeah.
kills, you know, their leader, the Mark Wahlberg's mentor in the beginning of the movie, and Charlize Theron's dad. So it's like, and then he steals all the money as well. So it's like they want to get back the money they worked really hard to get, and they also want to avenge, you know, someone that was a, you know, a big and integral part of their crew. So we're kind of rooting for them the entire time. Like, you know, it's about more than the money.
Right.
And like even with like I feel like in the Oceans movies, I don't remember them that well. I've seen each of them like once, and I enjoyed them at the time that I saw them. But I mean, I think most of the motivation in those movies is like, oh, Danny Ocean just can't stop stealing stuff. Like it's the only life he knows. It's just fun for him. It's the thrill of everything, and we kind of root for him in that way. And I feel like we don't even really get that much about Debbie Ocean in this. It's just kind of like, oh, well, I want more money.
She gives like a weird.
I'm out of prison and I have to steal stuff now. So
Yeah, I mean, we get like the whole like them eat. That's in the trailer. Like she's eating breakfast, kind of with Kate Blanchett or whatever, and she's like, "Why do you want to do this?" And she's like, "It's because it's like the only thing I'm good at," or it's just like
because she just says because I'm good at it. She
Right.
doesn't even say it's the only thing.
right because I'm
She
good
has
at
other
it.
talents,
And
but
then
this is what she's good at.
She gives like a weird like pep talk, or whatever. Maybe I'm mixing up scenes.
I
Like,
think
what's-
you might be thinking of
the
right
one-
before they do the job when she's in the dressing room.
In the
she's
bathroom or
getting
something.
ready.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I thought that was a fun little. I love that.
Oh
little
yeah,
bit
yeah,
there.
and
That
then
was
somebody
great.
walks up, but they try to have like a serious moment where they're like, where she's like, "You're doing this for."
Oh yeah, that's the way she says.
I guess is she just giving herself a pep talk?
No, she's talking to everyone in the
through the earpiece? Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Says,
that's right. But
yeah.
she's like, "You're not doing this for you. You're doing it for the 8-year-old girl who like dreamed of like being a robber or whatever."
criminal,
I was
yeah.
like, that might just be you, Like, guys. You're not doing this for you. You're doing this for 8-year-old me.
if her character was being serious in that moment or if she was trying to be funny.
Oh, okay.
Because it seems such like a ridiculous concept, like to
It
do it
was-
as motivation for people who want to steal stuff. Like
I think it was supposed to be very funny in the way because it's like how many 8-year-old girls are sitting there dreaming of being a
for the
heister and all
audience,
that,
but
yeah.
like are the people she's talking to laughing, or are they like, oh yes, inspiration? Like,
Or like I don't know. Traditionally, men are criminals. Like I thought that was kind of trying.
I even
to
thought
be
that could have been a
something, like,
motivation in there that was
empowering,
like
kind
not
of.
really like played on much.
Actually, they
Like,
did have that one bit where they talked about how she said she's like, "Oh, we're trying to be invisible here. Men are visible. Women
right.
are
That was like a
invisible."
good
Yeah.
like line
So
there.
we're
but
going
like,
to the Met Gala where all the men dress in
could
tuxes
even-
and women's dresses.
it could have even been like to completely explain why she was never in any of the Ocean's movies.
Yes.
Like, you know, I watched
Yeah,
my
they
brother
could've-
getting away with all these successful things all the time, and I know I'm just as talented as him, and this is kind of my way of proving like I can be the leader of the big heist, and I can, you know, I don't need to be in my brother's like crew or whatever.
Exactly.
It could have been like a competition thing with her brother, and then when she's like at like the grave with her brother all the time, she's visiting him, she's like ribbing him rather than like, oh, I miss you, Danny. Like, you know, it's like fuck you, like I'm pulling off this big heist.
Yeah,
now,
if he was
too.
more like, sorry, kid.
And that
but,
would
like,
give,
you know,
that
like,
would
I
give
don't
him so
wanna
much
put
more
you-
personality to her character as well, who's just kind of a little dry and like
I think it also
she's
would've made-
interesting in that she's talented at like doing these things. Like when she's doing the robberies, like the little stealing at like Macy's and like the hotel and stuff. Like it's fun to watch her be good at that, but
Oh,
it's not
yeah.
really like personality as
Right,
much.
yeah.
Yeah, and like I think what we were saying earlier was we were talking about the cameo at the grave and everything when the guy comes back and tells her like, oh, just knowing you could do it is enough and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what they're trying to go for in that scene was that idea like, oh, you know, he thinks she's not able to be there with the big boys. Don't risk, you know, getting in jail.
maybe.
But I think since it
Oh,
wasn't fleshed
interesting.
out,
It's a
little
it wasn't
light,
fleshed
yeah.
out well enough. It was too little like subtext in the scene. So I think that it's easily missable. That and then not knowing that throughout the rest of the movie, it's like it's kind of like having your log line be like really hidden.
Right. I really don't mind. Yeah. See, I wouldn't have minded if they kind of really leaned into that. Like, I don't mind. Like, I'm sure I would be insulting that if that were the case. But I mind this more, where it's just kind of like, oh, and she's like Danny Ocean's, little sister. Where if they did something where they rewrote the history of that trilogy is not really that, it's not
Important.
fucking Star Wars or something. It's Ocean's 11 kind of, and it's this kind of like every time he was putting together a crew, and he would never let me in because he didn't think I was like as big league or and like maybe that has something to do with because I'm like his little like sibling, or maybe that has something to do with like I'm a woman and like I can't be a part of their boys club or whatever. Yeah, like I would have liked something like that, but
Just some kind of motivation to be like, this matters outside of they're getting a lot of money. Because then, like, I don't think this is a spoiler. We all know that these heist movies end with like them pulling off the heist.
What? Wait, what? No.
they don't all go to jail
They don't always get in jail.
for not being good citizens.
They all get 25 to life.
Sorry,
Without parole.
sorry, Sandy, get in the electric chair.
One by one, they electrocute all 8 of them. It's like the post-credits scene, like Sandra Bullock as Debbie, Kate Blanchett as whatever the blonde girl's name was.
They all like pose like in a line. They're like Ocean's 8, and then it zooms out and there's a firing squad.
You're telling me they all got the death sentence at the end of this?
We're gonna make an example of these women.
This
Men
family
are
keeps
okay.
pulling off huge heists. No more.
Ladies, only men can get away with crimes like that.
It was. Did you see the?
I don't even remember what point I was making.
Vince, did
You
you?
were talking about how they get away with it, but we'll come back to that.
I mean, we reviewed the all female Ghostbusters. Did you see that movie?
I did not, but I heard not the best things.
It wasn't the best things. This is better.
Oh, yeah.
I think
For sure.
If anything, I think just this cast is like really pretty strong, and they're all kind of bringing their own shit to the table.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I'm a little confused about like how can Hollywood still not trust like a female director in like a like I think like this really could have used like there's at some point there's like an almost minute-long shot of like where somebody behind the camera does like a montage or like a huge panning shot of just shoes. It's just kind of like, ladies, I don't know, my wife likes shoes, and they just do like a long panning shot of like
Yeah, I mean,
ooh,
this
like,
guy wrote it too. I mean, they did have the one writing credit by Olivia Milch,
right, yeah.
writing
And
the
I
Barbie
think,
movie.
yeah, a lot of it too. I think was that I think they might have been straddling that line. I think that's why, like, the things you bring up about like the plot points, I think might have been brought to the table. But like, so like a male director, it was like, they got stuck with trying to cut ties with the old series, but still want to be attached to it, which is why I think we end up with a lot of that dissonance of is she trying to prove herself better than her brother. Or like things like that. So I think a lot of that, like I said, might have ended up on the cutting room floor.
I would have loved if like this was even done by like I mean, okay, so another thing we just did was Logie
Logie Lucky.
Logie Luckin. There goes Logie Luckin. Logan Lucky, and that's like another
Steven Soderbergh.
Steven Soderbergh like heist movie kind of, and like that kind of brought me back into like the Ocean's 11 kind of like groove or whatever. But you watch this and how it's cut, and it kind of looks like it's cut on like Windows Movie Maker, where like it's just kind of like the Steven Soderbergh like films are just so like whoa cool, or even the Ocean's 8 are like like they like do all these like split screens and all this other stuff, and this one's just kind of like okay.
It's
I don't
like
know.
that's the thing. Like I think like front to back, you watch this movie and there's not really a moment where you're like, I'm bored or this stinks.
Oh no!
Like
yeah,
you're so kind of just,
entertained the entire
you're
time. Yeah.
enthralled with what's happening in front of you, and it's not until I like left the theater, like I the credits start rolling. I'm like, that was really fun. Like I had a really good time watching that, and then like before I get to my car, I'm just thinking through everything, and I'm like, that was so thin. Like they just keep like putting interesting stuff in front of you, and they don't really put anything of any real substance in this movie. Like it just seems like there was no real effort put into this movie besides by the people acting in it. I think everyone acting in it does a really good job, but I think in terms of like the planning, the pre-production, and all that, like they kind of just they recycle Steven Soderbergh's like style of heist movie, which is fine because it's an Ocean's movie and you want to keep going with that. But they don't even really like amp up the style that Steven Soderbergh is like known for in terms of like his colors. It's really just kind of like they're using the same music that they would have used in the other Ocean's movies and the same pacing and whatnot. And then it's just like there's no character development for any of these characters. Like we're just kind of introduced to all of them, and then we don't really have any scenes of them like getting to know each other. There's no drama between like 8 like characters trying to pull off a heist. Like I feel like there was at least some in the other Ocean's movies or most heist movies. There's, you know, someone who wants to back out or some thing that goes wrong that makes them kind of like turn on each other. And we got none of that in this. Like it was just like this heist went off like completely without a hitch. And it's really
I don't think they ever had a problem, really.
I mean, there's some stuff that they overcame.
that they didn't solve immediately, at least.
It's like, and it's really entertaining to watch. But then when you get to the end, you're like, well, yeah, like they just kind of like smooth sailed through this entire heist, and there was never anything that like made you fear or be there.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier. There's like a lack of stakes and everything. Like there's times where like I think, and then the reason why is because like they didn't. I think a lot of the conflicts or any like problems that like were curveballs thrown at them just didn't draw out long enough for it to be like of risk.
Or like when we do think that there's a problem happening, they're like, oh, we actually planned for that, and it was all part of the plan.
Yeah.
So like there's
when it
never
happens
anything
during the heist.
Yeah.
Or whatever, yeah.
And like I was trying to say like earlier in the podcast, like there's so much stuff that's like, how was that part of the plan? Like there's stuff that you really couldn't count on.
Hey guys, we're caught. This is part of
it's all part of the plan.
Or well, not that, but like early on, like the whole thing where they're like, oh, we need to get a fashion designer to get this one actress to like agree on her. Like that's such a subjective thing. Like do they like directly know Daphne Kluger's style and she's definitely gonna pick, you know, this like down and out like fashion designer that like they do say that falls into their lap. But like how did they know that she was going to agree to that? And then they also had to get the Met to, or the Cartier to agree to release the diamond. Like there's all this stuff that's like the whole plan could have just been done like 5 minutes into this movie. Like they could have been like, hey, do you want to come help us with this heist? And she would have been, what the fuck? I'm a fashion designer. Yeah. Why would I help you steal stuff?
The one thing you're saying about that though is also I think that plays into the idea of like, you know, it being just unrealistic enough to have fun but not so outlandish. Like it was like when like, you know, when she's like scanning the diamonds, everything, they do that weird because like it's taking forever to load like the image of the diamond with her like special glasses and all that.
That was a goofy like set piece. I like.
Yeah, it's a goofy little piece there, but like I said, it dips for me like in that unrealistic. Like this is a really subjective. This is a really like circumstantial thing in the
that
heist.
technology was a little much for me. I like that as a set piece, but it is kind of like there's nothing else in this movie that's like crazy high tech. So that happening is like, that's not how it works. Like if that was how it works, then it would 3D print the necklace with just flat on the bottom because it can't see underneath.
Right. But the I mean a more unrealistic thing is that like they just have like an unrealistic like view of like what prison is like, where just kind of Sandra Bullock's like, yeah, I thought about this whole thing, and it was like, well, all of like your plot points in this heist are like super culturally relevant. Like the Met Gala isn't what it's been in like the past 5 years. It's evolved. It's become like more socially on the forefront or whatever. It's kind of like, how do you know that like this
like,
designer
did she already know about the Cartier like Queens, the Toussaint or whatever it is?
Yeah, or even that, or just like more.
It's not like she has like a computer that she's like researching stuff. She was in solitary for a long time.
Well, it is a women's prison. I mean, it might be different from a men's prison.
Are you allowed to go on the internet in prison?
Not in solitary.
Well, no, I mean, but
she said she came up with it in solitary.
Oh no, but yeah,
they're not like, all right, we're gonna lock you in this room with a computer by yourself.
But still, if they put you in that in like for like 2 weeks out of like 5 years, I'm just saying, are you allowed on the internet at all when you're in prison?
I think in a lot of prisons you are, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
in the
that.
library usually and stuff. I mean, I'm sure it's like heavily monitored and it's like worse than going on like a school computer in terms of what's blocked and
like
you can't just go to Pornhub.
they just like all they really needed to do is like look up Sandra Bullock's like browsing history when she was in jail. She's like
the Toussaint Diamond,
Met Gala, Cartier,
Daphne Kluger.
Yeah, it's
like she had to know that like Daphne Kluger was the one that was like hosting the event this year, like the special person or whatever,
guest of honor.
There's just like such this like people who come out of prison usually just have such
to acclimate,
have such a disconnect of like what's happening in pop culture, and like what she had to do to pull off this heist was like so like she'd be fucking like well researched for this, and she just kind of comes out and she's like, all right, I have the plan. and I ran it. And like, how,
Well, that's the
how
thing-
did she know like this person was in debt? How did she know this person's like fashion?
Well,
line
they do
was, like,
they do say
subtly
with
failing?
Helena Bonham Carter's character like that. Oh, that kind of fell into our lap. Like they're like, oh, that's almost too good. But like, there's so many like subjective what ifs in the beginning of this plan that I'm like, why did Danny Ocean read this and be like, yeah, that's like a really good plan?
Let me send some notes back for you. Yeah.
Looks good.
It also, if you think
She's
about
gonna
it,
get
though,
Whatever.
It does not look good. I'm dead anyway. I died at the end of the third movie.
It's so weird how I can Gmail him when he's dead.
oh, they got great cloud service up in heaven. If you think about it, though, one thing I thought was
IP
kind of
address
odd.
is just the Bahamas.
But if you look at the kind of in the whole scale of things, does it also seem like a weird kind of like, I wouldn't say PSA, like, like the more you know, but like the idea says like, look how smooth it goes with a whole women team. Like how like there isn't the drama with the men because like these women's like, no, they know how to work together, they know how to get the job done. And actually, it's funny because I think about when people say, oh, there's no women serial killers, and like, well, that's just half of them don't go berserker mode and like be visual and all that. So the idea is that they're like, it's kind of like you never heard the perfect crime. Because it's the perfect crime.
Right. Yeah. No.
So
yeah,
it's like,
definitely, yeah.
I think it's almost like it kind of goes in that vein of like, look, see how well they work together? Like, see, like,
Yeah.
you throw a guy in next, he's going to be like, oh, I got a big dick swinging, got to come in, like,
But even if they weren't gonna like fight with each other, there could have been drama in terms of like, this is going wrong and we're all panicking. But they were all just like so smooth about it the entire time, and there wasn't really anything that was like really going wrong to begin with.
But yo, they wacky.
Like, I mean, like even just in those beginnings, I hate to keep harping on those, but like, it could have been like Daphne Kluber was like, yeah, no, that meeting in the restaurant was really weird with Helena Bonham Carter. There's no way I'm getting this lady to design my dress. And they have to like, pull out all the stops to like get her to agree to it again, somehow. And I don't know. It's just too smooth of a heist. And like, again, it's very fun while you're watching it because like, there's nothing really being like painful or emotional to watch. Like there's nothing that really tries you as a viewer. You're just kind of like, oh, they wanted to do this thing and then they did this thing and then they did another thing and then that jumped into this thing and it all went really well. But when you get out of the theater, you're like, did any of that matter?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
It's true. Yeah. It's like, I remember sitting there like thinking like, it's like, yeah, well, I never felt in fear for them. Like I said, I never felt the fear that they'd be lined up and shot at the end of this movie for getting arrested for this heist.
I mean, even when what's it called at the end of the movie when they call in
the investigator.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what's his name?
James Corden.
James Corden.
Yeah, James Corden. Which I was confused at this part. Was he in the original trilogy? Or
I
whatever?
doubt it because I don't
No,
think he was
no,
big
I don't
back
think
then.
he was. No.
Yeah,
At least not in
but he
America.
talks kind of about that kind of where he's like, oh yeah, like I dealt with all your brother's big cases or something, and I was like, did you?
I remember actually, I wrote as my note for when he first appeared, and he comes in and gives the business card, goes like, "Sorry, I'm a insurance investigator," and I almost said out loud, "No, you're not. You're a late night host." I was like, "You sing car karaoke."
Like I love how like he comes in as like the like heist movies will often have this like one like big last threat like this guy's getting fucking too close for comfort kind of, and he walks in and he's just kind of like, hey, and Sandra Bullock's like, shh, here's how it's gonna go. and
he's like-
and she's like, we're gonna give you money to keep your mouth shut. And he's like, honestly, just to be talking to you is enough payment. She's like, sounds good, bye. And like that's like the end of the movie. I was like,
Well, she doesn't bribe him.
I know, yeah.
He's like, I just need to show them something. So he
Right.
finds the one part of it. And
But like it's so fucking ridiculous.
no, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, also,
She
like,
should have never met with him. Like,
Yeah.
And also, like that's the other thing. So, like, a lot of heist movies, they do the whole. Well, hypothetically speaking, I mean,
They're just
if I
like,
hypothetically took this diamond,
I mean the whole thing with the what's it called that I was talking about before? Like a probation officer or whatever. Like, hey, Sandra Bullock, we have pictures of you standing outside of the bathroom where like the $1 billion necklace goes missing. Like
I
it's
guess
just,
the problem is that they didn't do a police investigation. It was just the insurance investigation since it was insured.
Right. Yeah.
And I think 'cause even in past Ocean's movies, a lot of times there has been like a central antagonist the entire time. Like I think the first one's the guy who owns the casino, and like, he's even talking to Danny Ocean, being all like, "You can never rob my casino." He's like, "Haha, watch me try." And then like
a
they,
cat
at
and
the-
mouse kind of. Yeah.
And then at the end, when he does it, totally clears the thing and sees that they had the fake where they didn't have the logo on the bottom, and they had recorded the heist, and then he's like, "Oh, you know," he throws his hands in the air, and the Chips Pfeiffer is like, smash the table and all.
Oh,
I think this
$700 trillion.
He'll be back again in a year or two.
I think this did need like a central villain or like any like real sustainable villain in this, because the only one we really get is like Sandra Bullock's ex-boyfriend,
Right.
And that's also the only kind of like semi-motivation they try to give us, but like their relationship and past is kind of so poorly established that it's like, okay, I don't really care if you get revenge on this guy. It's also very confusing what that whole situation was in terms of like he just kind of, you know, got caught with her and then flipped. It wasn't like he set her up. As far as I can tell.
From I think what they tried to establish, that he did kind of set her up, and that like she.
But
was
what, they
always
wouldn't
the
have.
buyer.
Why would they throw him in the interrogation room if if it was like a whole setup planned with them?
Oh no, he didn't plan to set up. He just is like he basically set her up as a fall person. Because with a lot of heists and everything that like, or what he's trying to do is basically they were. I actually read up once about like art gallery fraud and all that, and like a lot of rich people will use art galleries to like launder money and or like for tax evasion. So what they'll do is they'll buy a piece cheap, then have it appraised at a much higher price, and then like donate it or give it away, and then they can write that off as taxes. So that's like, you know, now they can take away a huge chunk of taxes they owe. So there's a whole bunch of fraud in the art scene, and what happened was he basically has her pose as a buyer. And like then she'll go and be like, "Hey, I'll buy this at this price." And then they'll help drive up the price. And everything so he can sell it.
And then
at a
this
cheaper
time
price.
she was the seller.
But now that she's now signing stuff and has documentation, all that, she's now a liable fall person. So he can then like he did in the cell, he goes like, okay, like in a way he planned for this, right? Like much like she plans for all the other stuff. But the idea is that he planned, okay, now that she's signed it, I have no liability. So in case we get caught, like hopefully we don't. Like I don't think anybody plans to get caught, or hopes to get caught, I should say, in a crime. Or I hope they do get caught. You know,
Right?
It's like they're criminals. They're bad people. But
But it's also just a weird thing because like then in the other instance he would have been the seller, so he would have gone to prison for 5 years, and if he didn't like purposely set her up, like they just got caught. Like that's what happens when you're a criminal. It's just a very weak motivation. Like
Yeah.
they should have done it in a way where he did actually set her up. He was like he got caught and he's flipping on her for the FBI or whoever's investigating it, but they couldn't even go that far with this.
But even on like I remember like seeing in the trailer where like Cate Blanchett is kind of, you know, it seems like a great scene. They're kind of like, they're out by like the docks kind of, and you can see the Hudson. What river is that?
I'm not sure which scene you're talking about.
When they're like by like Cate Blanchett's like club or whatever, her
Probably
house. Her house.
Probably the Hudson, yeah.
But it's like a nice little scene, and it's in the trailer or whatever. And she's like, "You can't run a job in a job."
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. I know what
okay,
you're talking about now, yeah.
okay. There's conflict.
I thought that was going to be something.
There's conflict here. It's kind of like, listen,
It should have been like they all
we're-
got mad at Sandra Bullock and they're like, you fucked this whole thing because you had to get revenge on your stupid ex.
we're trying to run a job,
Yeah.
and we're trying to get paid millions. Like, it's not enough for you to get paid millions of dollars or whatever. Like,
But you need to throw your ex-boyfriend under the
You
bus.
have to, you had to put us in danger by like, making him the fall man specifically.
Dude,
kind
and
of.
I'll even tell you like how you fix that. Like you have it be like they think the whole thing is fucked because of her trying to do the thing.
She gets sloppy. She gets emotional.
the
right?
insurance guy is coming around asking all of them, investigating all of them. You know, he's talking to everyone that was there, and they're all like, "What the fuck? Like, you probably ruined this whole thing for us." He's on to us, and then, like, again, I think we can go into spoiler territory now.
We've been in spoiler
Yeah,
territory.
I mean, again, there's not really, but just in terms
They get caught.
in terms of the specifics of the spoilers, like at one point, Anne Hathaway, who's the Daphne Kluger character, she's an actress. She's not part of the crew the entire movie, despite what the advertising would have you believe. She basically gets bribed into like, oh yeah, like I'll join your guys, crew in terms of I won't tell them that I know what happened.
Right.
And that could have been something that was set up after everyone's like, what the fuck? Like, you almost ruined this for us. And then Sandra Bullock saves the day because she ropes in Daphne Kluber and basically, gets them to set up the whole thing in their favor. And then they're fine after that. Like, I don't know, I think that's a pretty easy way to like work around the
It's
lack
also-
of conflict in this movie.
It's also like fucking like, I don't know, when you're in this high stakes of like a job or whatever, and then like Daphne Kluger like kind of walks in and it's like, hey dickheads, what's up? Like when she walks into like
Pretty much, yeah.
like her
Their
like
hideout,
apartment,
yeah.
and they're like, what the fuck? Like the person we just robbed walked in, and like, dude, we're so fucked. And he's like, and then like Sandra Bullock's like, nah, like she's in on it, kind of. And it's like, yeah, that would have been nice. Like, what if like Awkwafina's character was like, yeah, like she was onto us in the bathroom, so I just drowned her in the fucking toilet and got away with the necklace. Like, you know, like this is such high stakes shit.
Yeah, why wouldn't you not tell everyone?
Like what? Yeah. Fucking like put trust in your crew. Like kind of like, I don't even know if that whole crew knows that like that's her.
I think she
ex-boyfriend that they
doesn't
framed.
catch on to it until after the diamond is stolen, though. Like I think like
What?
Anne Hathaway's character, Daphne Kluger.
I think no, she states that
when
like
She's suspicious, but I don't think she pieces it together until the stuff is stolen.
No, it's when they start doing the magnet thing, and then she sees
oh, she takes the picture.
like
Helen Bonham Carter takes
she
a
sees
picture.
Helen Bonham
Yeah.
Carter like filming that or whatever, and then I think at that point,
Yeah, I think that's what makes her suspicious. But she's
no, but
not
then
like.
but then like she's like fake vomiting, and she's like like they do like a whole bunch of
Oh,
like
do they show
weird
that she's
shit.
fake vomiting? Or?
No, but she goes on and she's like, yeah, no, I was like really playing it up, and she's like, I was being like
all right.
crazy
Yeah, I
that
didn't-
entire night, you know, and it's just kind
I
of
think
like,
I was kind of just thrown off. I didn't like that whole twist. Like,
Yeah.
hey, she should have just been in on it from the beginning.
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think
If you're not going to do it the way that I just pitched it
Well,
before,
actually, she
because
was.
it's such a
They
weak.
just don't tell you, like, you know, like
because it's very weak. Because like we don't even get like scenes of like the people in this crew like hanging out, and then her motivation is like, I don't have a lot of female friends. Like, yeah, these people don't either. They're not having a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
They're just all business this entire time. Like,
there's not a single scene of like mojitos on the beach.
as fun as this movie is, what it did need is like chemistry between the characters, scenes between the characters, and then that also gets reinforced by drama between the characters. And then we're more rooting for them to like get over whatever drama is going on.
Well,
Like,
that's the same scene.
you throw all these people from like different walks of life in here. You've got like a mom who's like running stuff. You've got like Riri doing her whole like hacking thing. You've got like Mindy Kaling who like, isn't really a criminal to begin with. She just, wants to get away from her mom and like happens to be good at jeweling and stuff. I guess she has a history with Sandra Bullock as well.
Yeah.
But like there's just all these like different walks of life, that are kind of colliding, like 8 of them, and there's not any friction, there's not any drama. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
there's no like, hey, I'm not gonna fucking work with that guy. You know,
Like the
like,
only scene
yeah.
they have is like Awkwafina like doing like Tinder with Mindy Kaling, and like
I was about to say, yeah.
that is funny. It's a funny scene,
that
but
was
like
great,
that
yeah.
works better if there's like drama between some of the other characters. Like
Right, yeah.
I don't want to just see 8 people getting
Bonding
along
and
the movie.
fighting and yeah, no,
8
exactly.
friends who
Yeah,
don't
no.
really hang out that
Well,
much.
no, that's also
8
like
coworkers.
when Anne Hathaway
People just
walks
getting
in.
along.
When Anne Hathaway walks in, she's like, "What's up, dickheads?" Kind of like, and it's like, but like the more confusing part about that scene is when she walks in, they're all kind of like eating pizza and drinking wine and like cracking open like Stella Artois or whatever, like. But like I was kind of like, these characters aren't friends. Like
Yeah.
they just, like maybe they kind of maybe they're going through that like stage of like, hey, like we're all high school kids who just did a play. Like maybe we can hang out now. Like like
Before
maybe
they find
have
out it
that.
doesn't work.
Yeah, but like it's also
I'll see you guys next year when we do.
As a theater kid in high school, that is entirely true. After a show,
I'll see you
everyone's
guys next year when we do Pippin.
Yeah, it's a giant afterglow of the show and everything. Like, everyone's so, we did it, guys, we did it. We're all gonna make bad choices tonight.
Yeah. I'm gay.
Hey!
That scene should have taken place at an Applebee's. With the waitress who's like, "Are you guys gonna order anything but water?"
And there's like excessive cuddling in like the Applebee's booths. Like it's like borderline orgy, borderline like cuddling.
I actually had a thing with when they started seeing the catering people come in and all that. I'm like, God, this is getting too real. Like, he's like, okay, guys, no slouching, no this and that. And I'm just like, God, it's like straight out of my work. And actually, the one thing I did think was that I sat there and like in my head started getting like, this is unrealistic. Is when she drops the diamonds on the kid's tray in the blind spot of the camera to like after she steals them off Anne Hathaway's neck in the bathroom. I in my head remembered when they said, oh, it weighs more than 6 pounds and everything. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I'm carrying a tray, I will feel a weight difference like that. Like, whoa, what are you trying to pawn off on me? Like, I tell it to people all the time. They're like, what kind of glassware are you trying to pawn off on me right now? But in my head though, like, I think since like a lot of it was still like I said, there's no stakes for it, so it felt fun. But yeah, like I said, but like I was saying earlier, it's like the idea. It's like it wasn't so outlandish enough, but then like there's still other scenes where you're like, why is she buying that submarine?
Right, yes.
It was also weird, the Anne Hathaway switch, because she was presented as being an unlikable character.
Yes.
In this, like,
Yes,
they have
very
the
much
scenes
so.
where like, she's kind of nasty to like Helena Bonham Carter and a few of other people, and
Right, yeah.
she's shown to be this kind of like stuck up, like, something that we, the common people, would be like, oh, like that's what we don't want celebrities to be like.
So we think
But then
Anne
when-
Hathaway's actually like...
I even had a
And
note here.
she gives a great performance as that, like she really slips into that. But then when they do like the switch, it's like, well, like I don't want her to be with this group of like friends. Like she wasn't a good person.
Yeah.
I even had a note where I was just like, yo, so when's Anne Hathaway gonna fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it was like the way she was playing the character, everything's just like they keep talking about her boobs and everything like that. I'm like, yo, when's she gonna smash?
Yo, when that sex scene...
Yeah, when, and then we do get it, sort of. I mean,
Oh man, I really the Sandra Bullock like ex-boyfriend and the date of Anne Hathaway. Who is that guy? I really wish they cast literally anybody else. Like I would have gone for funny. I would have gone for like really handsome, like irresistible. I would have gone for the guy that you love to hate, kind of. And I would have even gone for like Hemsworth in like Ghostbusters, kind of like
really
it's star
goofy.
power, it's like any four of those, and this guy flies under all of those categories, and he's just kind of like, hey, I probably play like the main character's wife's sister's boyfriend on a sitcom, and I'm glad I can be in this like fucking star power filled like comedy. Like he's
yeah, I
just
just find
like
he was rather lacking because like I kind of felt like
was
every
like-
time he came on, I was like, here comes the fuck boy.
I was like, why? Like, he doesn't appear that charming. Why would somebody like Daphne Kluger take him to like the Met Gala?
Yeah.
That was just another kind of like fly by the seat of their pants decision. Like, where it's just kind of like, well, if we want to pin on him, he's got to fucking be there, and he's got to be around her a lot. I don't know.
And also the way you said like, who is that guy? Sounds like if you took it the other context of Daphne Kluger being like, who is that guy?
I also thought they missed a lot of opportunities for great celebrity cameos. Like they had people that they showed on screen, but like, I don't know, give them like a line or two. Like the only one that really has a line is like Designer and who's the girl he's talking to? Is it just Kim Kardashian or? When they're like on the steps after they've all been like kicked out and they're waiting to be let back in, and someone is like asking something, and Designer, who's like looking at his phone, like answers the question. He's like, oh, somebody stole something, or the big diamonds are missing or something.
I don't remember.
It's just like a short little exchange, and it's like it's filmed in a way where it's like we're not really there. Like, we don't even like look at these characters. We're looking like down the stairs at them. It's very like weird and off-putting.
It was kind of what I call it the Entourage cameo, where it's like in the Entourage movie, they like all the trailers are like, we got Common, we got this guy, we got Tom Brady, we got all these people, and each one literally has like 2 seconds of like, huh, and like they look at the characters and that's it. So it's like
but Entourage does have like
Oh, hey, Vince.
that's it, yeah.
Every cameo's line. Oh, hey, Vince. Like, everybody in Hollywood knows each other and, like, or on, like, a first-name basis.
And that felt like the
But
cameos
even
in this
that
movie,
goes
yeah.
like it's goofy, but it goes a long way in terms of like it would have made Daphne Kluger feel more real. If
somebody else talked
if she's
to her? Yeah.
interacting with someone, like
she
we have
was-
Katie Holmes at the table, but she just kind of sits there like, okay.
Right. If she was like, if they were like, oh, hey, Daphne, instead of, like, it would have sold. Works in Entourage, works here, baby.
If Turtle walked up and was like, yo, my boy Vince wants to pay.
Yo,
And also my
right,
dog
yo.
Arnold.
hey, yo, Daphne, you guys know about any weed that won't affect Arnold when we're smoking it with Drama and E? And, like, also Vince, he just bought a jet ski and he was banging 2 hookers on it, but, like, can jet skis get chlamydia?
Like, cut to money stacks, money stacks.
Just fuck, dude. Connie's for my crew.
I miss Entourage. It was such a trash show at times, but it was so fun.
Yeah, it was.
It was like the men's Sex in the City. Like, look at this
was.
lifestyle porn. Which actually, I even made a note. I put DP means diamond porn. Like when they had the one scene where it's just like, diamonds, 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 diamonds. Look at that diamond. Or there was also a lot of, I called it art funk, like those little, like they had like this funky music playing and then like the art montage of like all stuff. And there was one that just was very centric around boobs. Like the one montage where it's just like, it's like art, but the boobs are out. Art, but the boobs are out.
Yeah, that got a laugh in my theater. Really? Got an audible laugh from like the whole theater.
Culture.
Boobs.
My theater was actually pretty packed for this.
Really?
This did pretty well at the box office. I know the first
this
weekend,
did, yeah.
it did
Yeah.
like 41 million or something like that, and it unseated, not that it's very hard, but it unseated Solo.
How?
Solo was begging to be unseated.
All nobody.
I don't want the
that saw
spotlight. I don't
Solo?
want the spotlight.
Hey guys, it was fun, okay? I feel like Jimmy Fallon when I talk about movies sometimes. Like, it's fun. It's a little fun. It's a fun little movie. You go see the movie, it's fun.
Harvey Weinstein? Fun. It's
fun.
He's a cool guy.
Hey,
I don't know.
Bring him on my show. I'll tussle his hair.
Tell me this. Hitler? Or
Not you too, Jimmy.
Jimmy, no.
Oh man, I'm looking at so many of my notes and just seeing like the weirdest stuff on here. Like there's my classic one, which I even sent this to Joe, and I just put Riri is thick. Like when they had and actually oddly enough, a lot of times when they had that big scene where they're entering and like with their gala dresses and all that, like all the dresses felt like fitting to them and not like that weird kind of male gaze you get in sometimes movies like this, where it's like, look, these women are strong, but they keep showing you their butt. Whoa!
A little too much more cleavage.
Yeah,
a little too much cleavage.
Yeah. Like, get some cleavage in there for the guys, for the boys.
You know what scene was kind of weird? My girlfriend pointed this out, like how like Riri's in the truck. She's doing like all like the man in the chair stuff from the truck, all the tech stuff. And then like Mindy Kaling has to like cut up the diamond into all the different pieces. I didn't realize she was like setting it into like things they were going to wear. I thought they were just cutting it up to smuggle it out some other way. So this scene was kind of lost on me. But then like when they all get into like gown wear and stuff and they all dress up nice and then they just walk out like they, had been there the entire time. Like I felt like that was like a little risky and unnecessary because there's a guest list for who's supposed to be there. Like it would have been safer to walk out as like the help or something through a back door. And then like Riri comes in, like puts on a dress, comes out of the truck, somehow gets into the gala.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the same way that any of them got in. They must have.
They all know somebody,
hacked passes or something like that. Just like it just seemed very transparent that the whole thing was just a ploy. Like Rihanna's very beautiful. We need to have a scene of her in a dress, not just like wearing like Rastafari
and just smoking
beanies
fat
and stuff
blunts.
like that.
No.
Fat blunts.
Yeah, no. It's definitely like a showy kind of
And it was like
fashion
they were
set piece,
doing like these like not slow motion, but like long lingering shots that me not realizing that she had cut the diamond up into like earrings and bracelets and necklaces and whatever. I thought that they were smuggling them out by like shoving them up somewhere because like they're in dresses and they're like walking strange, and I didn't know that like they were wearing them as earrings, and I was
Heavy
like,
quotes
I was
on
like, this
somewhere.
is a weird scene.
There was definitely a shot that clued me into that. I don't know what it was, but
Are you saying women have a pocket that men don't have?
yeah, I don't know.
Into what I thought or what the reality
No,
was?
into the reality.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
yeah.
it was explained to me later because I guess there were shots of like the bracelets.
Oh right,
and
yeah.
stuff.
They were showing that. Yeah, no, but it was
But it just kind of fit into like dressing up and jewelry and stuff. So I wasn't like, oh, that's the diamond.
It was just so funny that like, what's it called? I think Kate Blanchett is like the caterer or whatever. And it just shows like them like loading her truck up with like all the equipment that they used to pull the heist off, and I was like, put the fucking diamond necklace in there, like instead like 8 women come in and like get dressed into like a ball gown and like sneak into like this very high profile
I thought it was
event,
supposed to be like a knot. What's that one poem that like it's like there's like diamonds at the meeting of my thighs or whatever that is? It's some poem that gets
Is
used
that
a
about
lot.
vajazzling? Diamonds at the meeting of my thighs?
Someone out there hearing this will know exactly what I'm talking about. But I thought it was supposed to be a nod to that. I didn't even hate it. I was like, okay, I guess that's kind of cool. It's a little weird and gross. Like, who's going to handle the diamonds after that?
This is the product of 3 dudes talking about an all-women movie. Yo, what about the coochies, man?
Yeah, if I was a woman, I had the best robberies ever. I just store everything in my coochie.
Yo, I wouldn't be able to rob the place. I'd be playing my boobs too much, yo.
Be bouncing my titties around and shit.
Yo, that's what I do. Yo, why didn't they do that the entire movie?
All right, like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you thought about this movie, and honestly, what you would do if you had a clit.
Hey guys,
Question of the week.
hey guys, being ironically sexist is still being sexist. All right. Oh god.
We're the worst people to be reviewing this movie.
Yeah, 3 dudes talk about 8 chicks while cracking back cold ones, man.
Hey, that's a pretty good ratio, if you know what I'm talking about.
3 dudes, 8 chicks. That's my kind of party.
5 for guys, chicks are free.
Girls drink free.
Oh god. All right, you guys want to get some ratings for this movie?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Unless you guys have some
Yeah,
other
sure.
notes.
2 fingers already down from me because they didn't say a pun of the title.
Who's Aquafina? I don't know.
What is she, a Drake? What, we're gonna have Purell coming here next?
I was telling Joe because she hosted or she was guesting on HQ, and if you go to her Twitter account, because I was literally like, who the hell is Aquafina? And I went to her Twitter, and in her bio it says, who the hell is Aquafina? She's really, really leaning
There's
into
no
that.
better humor than
Very
self-deprecating
self-aware
humor.
of where she stands in the public eye. But
Good for her though, because I mean,
I still don't know who the hell she
There's
is.
just like 0 Asian representation.
No, she's
in-
great in this. It's just
Yeah.
whenever someone has a single name, you're like, should I know them?
Yeah.
I actually even went to a class, like an acting class, and the cast director said, "Hey guys, wacky Asian women is in right now." I'm like, that's a very loaded statement.
Is she in BoJack as a character called Aqua?
No. Sextina Aquafina is the dolphin character.
I was so
I'm
confused.
Sextina Aquafina, baby.
That's not played by her.
No, I don't think it's played by Aquafina.
Because that confused me for a while too.
that
It's
is
like, I know that name.
That's a very strong coincidence. Much like they say at the end of every credits, if you stay to the end of the credits, this is all fictitious, and any similarities to the people living or dead is merely coincidental.
All right, let me read the Rotten Tomatoes. On review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 68% based on 202 reviews and an average rating of 6.3 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, Ocean's 8 isn't quite as smooth as its predecessors, but still has enough cast chemistry and flair to enjoyably lift the price of a ticket from filmgoers up for an undemanding caper.
You gonna make it?
I do agree with that, yes.
You could feel the burp.
That last one hit me pretty big. An enjoyable caper. Too much.
I can go first. I don't have a whole lot else
go
to
for
say.
it.
I feel like I kind of blew my load earlier in this review in terms of it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I blew my load in theaters when I saw 8 different
Hey, yo, tits a face, man, bro.
Oh, please forgive us for this episode.
God forgive us. We're not actually like this in real life. We are not Harvey Weinstein.
But is Harvey Weinstein that
worse than
bad?
Hitler?
Because is he worse than Hitler?
Is he worse than Hitler?
This has all been satire about how bad Matt Damon is, and we aren't bad.
Yeah.
All of the views expressed in this episode do not represent.
They only represent Matt Damon
This is very
and his fictitious pitch for how bad is Harvey Weinstein if you have to pick between him and Hitler.
Who would you rather go camping with?
Who would you rather go
I think
camping with?
that's the tagline of this episode. Who's worse, Weinstein or Hitler? Ocean's 8.
Oh boy. But yeah, I've kind of said my piece already in terms of it's very enjoyable while you're watching it, and then before you even make it to your car in the parking lot, you're like, did any of that matter? Like, was there any stakes? Was there any progression? Was there any development of these characters? Was there any relationships going on? And the answer is a resounding no for all those questions. But you have to give credit to this movie for being entertaining. You have to give credit to the actresses in this I think everyone really brought their A game for this. It was very funny. Everything that was written was delivered very well. I just feel like they could have probably written more. And I kind of wonder if it was like a runtime issue, because the movie was an hour and 50, which like that runtime to me says like there was probably more, and they were like, this is like a heist comedy movie. We can't throw like 2.5 hours of movie out there. We got to cut somewhere. So
right.
Like, it's just kind of like an awkward runtime, an hour and 50. So I feel like that's probably the result of some things being left on the cutting room floor, and unfortunately they were probably character development oriented, because there wasn't really a lot of wasted time. It was just all like heist the entire time, and that's why it's enjoyable while you're watching it, because you're like, oh, I want to see if they pull this off.
Right.
And then they do, and you're like, oh, why did I care if they pulled it off?
Right, yeah.
Why did I care if other people got more money? Like, we didn't even get to really know these characters enough. So like when they're doing like the whole like ending sequence of like, oh, this is what they all spent their money on, I'm like, none of that makes sense with what I saw. Like 9ball opening like a
bar,
a bar that has like pool in it. Like, you just went off of her name. Like, why isn't she like opening like a gaming studio or something computer related at least? And then
Wait,
like,
Mike, you're not opening a microphone shop? Come on.
Yeah,
Mike's.
I was also really mad that like they didn't have like I felt like there could have been a better ending scene for Sandra Bullock's character, just to like tie things up. Like, they had the whole thing where she's like, I just want to like pay my bills and, get a nice place somewhere and work a job and like, make some friends. And like, they could have like had an ending scene that sort of tied that up, like in terms of like, we already saw her make the friends and, she just takes a job somewhere and, buys a house and like does live like a regular sort of life after that, while having secretly made all this money. Like,
right. Yeah.
That could have been like a nice tie back, rather than going to visit the grave of a guy that we just found out was dead.
Yeah.
Or thought he was someone else.
Yeah. But all that to say is I'll give this 3 fingers. It's enjoyable. It's very funny. I was not bored at all watching it. I thought it was a much better movie the moment I got out of the theater. It's just, on reflection, it's kind of thin.
Right. Yeah. Vince, do you have a number in your mind?
Is this you buying time because you still don't know how you feel about it?
Yeah.
After an hour and a half or more of talking about it.
Fine, Dad. Push me on stage a little harder.
Son, if I don't do it, no one else will.
I'm on stage. My dad just pushed me out here.
Play the breathy flute, son.
Yeah, before we started recording, honestly, we got some of our best bits out before we started recording. Yeah. Vince is talking about it wouldn't be a good heist movie unless there's like breathy flutes.
Yeah, that.
And then I was like, are they gonna make it? There's no shame in turning down now.
It's also a very visual aspect of the podcast because we're holding our hands up like a flute. And you're like, I'm really anxious about this heist. Guys, are we sure we want to do this?
It's just somebody playing a flute, but just like
talking and
blowing their worries into the mouthpiece, like, oh my god, I hope they all don't get the electric chair.
But you may go first. I will still go first if you'd like me to.
If you want to.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, my last note, literally on this last page here, I just wrote, that was fun. And not sarcastic at all. Like, I really had an enjoyable time. I had a lot of fun with it. I've played a lot of I played this one heist-related video game, Payday 2, so like seeing the aspects of the heist kind of got me all like jazzed up because I'm like, oh, it's the casing part, where you're sitting there, no masks on, you're casing the joint, getting an idea of it, and it just felt fun to me. It made me want to go back and play Payday 2 and just be like, let's get some heists, go get those satchels, do the cool stealth stuff and all that. But for me, like I said, it definitely, looking back on it, you start seeing more of the flaws, and it's one of those things like Mike was saying, that on the way to the parking lot, you're like, wait a second, like,
right, yeah.
How did that
like
work?
I got heisted.
Yeah,
I got heisted into believing this is a good movie.
I mean, for me,
where do those diamonds go?
oh, my diamonds are gone.
Where did that 1350 go? into a good movie.
I mean-
Darn it!
I mean, 18 for me because it's the. It was. I saw this at the ArcLight Cinerama
Okay.
Dome on Sunset, and like after 5 p.m. they charge 18, and like, and then like 16 is from like the 2 to 3 o'clock, 2 to 5 o'clock hours, like 16, and then before that matinee pricing is 12. Like, ooh, what a steal! But
Sounds
I
like
did,
Vince lives in California.
They're communists taking all your money. I don't know why the grandmas are like what I imagine conservatives being. Yes. Yeah. I really enjoyed myself. I had a great time. I really enjoyed just kind of seeing like a fun flick, and I based my rating off of like me walking out of the theater. I'd say 4 fingers.
Nice.
Definitely go see it. I mean, considering we spoiled half of it, so if you haven't seen it yet and you're like, "What's up with that?" Go see it. I think I'd say it deserves your money. I enjoy it, and while like other movies I've seen, like like Nocturnal Animals, where the second I start looking back on it, I go, "Oh wait, there was a lot wrong with that."
Right, yeah.
I kind of think to myself, I'd rather live in the happiness I had walking out of the theater than sit there and just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna make sure I dissect my fun time and make sure it's not fun."
Right.
Yeah.
Welcome to being a movie critic. An unofficial movie critic where you don't even get paid
Do
for
I
doing
still
it.
like any of the movies I ever liked?
You just ruin movies for yourself.
podcast.
Yes, you just ruin movies for yourself without even like any sort of monetary value.
I'll live in denial for entertainment,
Yes.
not for like things that affect life for other people. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of laid it all out there when we were talking about it. I think the cast is really great. They really, I don't know, I enjoy watching all of them, but there's not much beyond that. Again, it scratched my itch for a heist movie. It was better than, Ghostbusters, the female revamp.
You didn't mean the original?
Oh,
No.
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 Yeah, I think that's all. I'm gonna give it 2.5 because it's right in the middle for me. It's like I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. So it's just like right there, right in the middle. I would still recommend it. I think this is such like, again, if you're gonna watch something like heavy, like Hereditary, I think this is like a really pleasant thing to watch.
It's
like,
so light. I think that's part of why it's so
light and breezy.
enjoyable.
This is just like, it's just kind of like the director who like, I forget what his name is. I feel like when you were reading the list, I was like, that guy almost exclusively directs like TBS afternoon movies. Like, where you're like, I love watching this movie for 8 hours.
There's not even
with
like,
commercials.
in terms of like heist movies, like I think of like sort of like sections of Mission Impossible are certainly a heist, and like there's a lot of tension in like the one iconic scene in Mission Impossible where he's like sweating and he's got to catch it with his hand. There's nothing like that in this. It's just kind of like, oh, we had this plan and it went off without a hitch and it was fun, and it's fun to fantasize about how people could steal from the Met Gala.
Yeah.
And I think this will land itself on TBS afternoon, kind of like weekend. Dads will watch this everywhere at some point and be like, "Who's Aquafina?"
And for me, I think my rating might have been weighed pretty highly because I just watched Hereditary earlier that morning.
Right.
And
Yes.
so it's I'm like, this makes me feel like not dying.
Right. Yes.
this is a good film. Watch it because you won't
I can
be like,
sleep again tonight after watching.
Yeah, I
this.
can feel fine after this.
So all those scores, it's going to come out to 3.16 repeating, which will round down to 3 fingers for us as a podcast officially.
Cool.
No, nice. I feel like it would be very weighted if it rounded up to 4. Like, forget your guys' reviews. Vince, he was right on point.
We just give it whatever the guest gives.
Yeah, whatever the guest gives. Yeah.
The guest is always right.
And it rounds up to 5. Perfect movie.
Perfect movie.
We'll
Great.
see you guys next week.
Yeah.
But if you guys agree or disagree, please leave a comment below on SoundCloud, YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter or Facebook, wherever you're listening to and or watching or finding out about this podcast. We'd love to continue the conversation, as we always say, about Ocean's 8, the 7 seas.
No matter where you lie on the 7 seas, 6 continents, or 8 oceans.
So
I feel like we're trying to like forget how bad that pun was there. This is the size of
why
that.
do we bring that?
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm Mike, and let's wrap up this podcast before anyone remembers that happened.
Vince, before we go, do you have anything you want to plug in terms of where people can see you or find out about you or hire
Well,
you?
actually, the one thing I get the most fame for is actually if you go on Netflix, there's a movie called Other People.
Oh,
You'll
very-
see
very
me,
good movie.
You'll see me sitting in
I
front.
saw you in
yeah,
that,
that's
yeah.
me in the audience.
I didn't know you were in it, and then I saw you. And I texted Joe. I was like, "Was Vince in
Other people? Yeah. And I was like, yeah.
That's the one thing people always like will circle me on the screenshot and send it to my Facebook. Vince, it's you. I'm like, that was unpaid extra work I did my first year in
It's
LA.
like it's centered on you. It's very prominently
Yeah.
like they were like, we got to get this guy's reaction into the movie.
Oh yeah. And plus, I also,
It's different from like other like crowd shots where it's like zoomed out and they have like 10 people in the
Like,
frame.
I
Like it's
write-
clearly like,
yeah.
oh, Vince had a good reaction. Let's get him
Yeah.
in the movie.
So, but other than that, if you find yourself in the LA area, I'm always doing stand-up comedy at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. I'm along with other crazy cool places. And if anything other really cool happens, because now my career is on the upstart, I finally have an agent, and they're getting me lots of auditions, which means
Good.
keep a watch on me. I might be the next Brad Pitt. Who knows? I might be the next.
Might be an Ocean's 9.
Might be an Ocean's 9. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll do a better job than whoever the fuck that guy was.
But if you do feel compelled to follow me on social media, it's at Vince Yearly, just my name. So find me, and we can be friends.
Is that on Twitter?
On Twitter, Instagram,
Oh, okay.
Facebook.
He tweets
yeah.
on a yearly basis.
Yeah, on a yearly
Once a year.
basis, yeah. So not much for the
It's
followers.
just every
but
year
yeah.
on New Year's. Happy
Yeah.
New Year
Happy New Year.
from Vince Yearly.
This has been a Vince Yearly tweet.
Wow, new president. This has been Vince Yearly. Stay tuned for next year. Wow, that Trump stuff. Pretty wild, right? I'm out of characters. This is Vince Yearly.
What's the deal with the White House?
Looks like big trouble ahead. I'll
Stay
get my
tuned.
thoughts in the next year.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure it'll work itself out.
Doesn't all life, just like every good heist, it'll work itself out.
I'm sure he'll grow into it.
But thank you again for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Dude, thanks for
Great.
coming
Yeah,
out.
glad we finally got you on.
Yeah, especially and then in 6 months when I'm back for Christmas to visit my family, you have
No,
another
you only
opportunity.
come on once a year, Vince.
You're
Twice
Vince Yearly.
Too much. Too much twice a year.
We'll have you on June 16th, 2019.
2019.
You're not bi-yearly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week for our review of Hereditary, and then the week after that for Incredibles 2. So stay tuned for those. That's it for us, guys. We'll see you next week. Goodbye?
Later.
Question mark?
Have a good time with life.